Hey everybody, it's Phil from Zaid Comics, the writer and co-creator of the upcoming graphic novel Magic Cop, set to launch on Indiegogo in August, and just one half of the two best looking brothers in all of comics. So today we're doing another review in a series that seems like what we're going to be doing because we've got some good feedback on reviewing this comic, and that is She, the Way of the Warrior #2. If you guys haven't seen my Way of the Warrior #1 review, go check that out. Pause this video, watch that one, and then come back. This comic, the first one I picked up at the Comic-Con Revolution in Chicago from Billy Tucci himself, the writer and artist, the creator of She. And so I went to my local comic book store. Shout out to Graham Crackers Comics. They have a bunch of locations in the Chicagoland area. And I had them look through their other stores and hunt down some She issues for me. So I have most of them now. And we're going to get right into #2. Something I want to show off, of course, this beautiful cover. But also, since this is self-published through Billy's own publication, Crusade, he didn't have an ad. He didn't need to put any ads in his comic, so he's got this really cool samurai painting here on the back cover. So you utilize more space like that. So we'll get right into it. And here, the thing that I dig about this is the same prelude that we had in the first issue. So if it's in the third issue, it's going to be a reoccurring theme. And just like, the old guys like Stan Lee would say, every comic is someone's first comic. So right here you can get the backstory and lineage of this secret war that's going on with the Sohai. Pretty cool. So there's that back cover image. The first, right off the bat, we're in another kind of like flashback sequence, and you could tell that because Billy is putting that ripped up paper edges around the panels. She is talking to her grandfather, who is her sensei, that he says that her training is done, and she doesn't understand because he always says that you're never done learning. And he's like, of course, but I have taught you the most that I could teach you, and you need to look into your heart to tame your emotions and learn throughout your long life. And she quickly points over to a flower, and there's a lot of really good dialogue between these characters. It's actually surprising that this is Billy's first work, and the dialogue is very metaphorical between the sensei and Anna. And I really love the metaphors that he throws in here, saying right here, do not forsake your focus so easily, even when it's moved by tenderness. And she finds a flower here. And then this big like action sequence happens where she's distracted, and when you welcome your distractions, you run from yourself, and that can result only in losing your way. And we see this big mythical samurai shogun on a war horse. The colors are great with these flashbacks. He could really go wild in them. The colorist didn't really have to go into real life, real world colors in these flashbacks. And just the posing, the action in this book is out of this world. He really had a blast doing this, and if you talk to Billy, he'll tell you that he uses a lot of reference photos, and which is, all artists do it, and the best artists do it. So he would take pictures of his wife in these different poses, these different action angles, and he was actually showing them off on one of his streams. You can head on over to his YouTube channel, Billy Tucci, and he streams a lot of him doing his own artwork and talking about his past experiences. And then she gets stabbed through the chest by this shogun and instantly wakes up. On the next page, this beautiful double page spread panel at the top here. And what I love about just this page in general is you see Anna waking up from the night where we left off in the first issue. Now, I didn't go over the ending of the first issue. Well, what you have to know there is she saw the main antagonist kill a homeless man, and she froze up because she was very emotional and couldn't do anything to stop him, and just held the homeless man in her arms as she died when the antagonist walked away. So now she's waking up from that night out, and you don't really see this in comic. You don't see the hero waking up from a night of being a vigilante, and she's got her makeup was still on, smudged off. I love that. The colorist just smudged the makeup off there, and you still dried up blood on her thigh, which she goes into in detail and what that represents to her. The thing I really found surprising and really dug about this issue is the inner monologue, the narration that Anna is telling a different story than what's really happening in the panels. And that's something that I've gone over before, that I strive to do in the writing of a lot of my characters in my next project called The Lost Pages, because I really love mixing the narration and inner monologue and prose with the comic element of storytelling through the illustrations. And the alarm clock goes off, and we get a little scene change here. Two cops from the New York Police Department talking. It's kind of like a subplot of the aftermath of what happened with the first gang fight scene in the first issue when the thugs were terrorizing that police officer, that female police officer. And as every superhero has a day job, Anna is a curator of a art gallery, Japanese art gallery, and we get a little dialogue here between Anna and this elderly lady who I think she works for or works with, and the big antagonist walks in. You get a good sense of reaction on Anna's face, even though she is farther in the background. And Arashi is the antagonist that killed the homeless man, and she knows this. And you get a sense, even from the first issue, that these characters, or at least Anna knows who he is, because he's, an underground crime lord, it seems like, and she has to, in the first issue and in this issue, she has to face him face to face. This one coming directly with her secret identity, and actually dealing with him in her work life. In the first issue, they spoke on the phone, but back in the gallery, what the team working on this is trying to do right here is set character. They want to dig deeper into the main antagonist to see what he's about, and they're talking about suicide, how the old samurai or warlords would, if their troops were wiped out, then it would brought so loss upon their army that the warlord, instead of taking the defeat and living with that in a prison for the rest of their life, they would kill themselves. And flashback to some of the evidence that was recovered from the scene of that gang fight, a flashlight. They say that they have a fingerprint on the flashlight, but no one to connect to that fingerprint. So is that Anna's fingerprint? We don't know, and so they think it might be the person that slaughtered all the gang members and saved the police officer. We have this cool shot of one of the thugs that had that flashlight, that the police officer remembers one of the gang members had one. So you get multiple stories here. You have the she story, and then her dealing with her normal life, and this subplot with the police officers trying to figure out what happened in this gang fight. And the book reads like a movie, and it seems like it was written like a movie as well. And a lot of the times that's how comic writers will write their scripts, because they're both visual mediums of storytelling, It is much more similar to a movie than, say, a novel with comic book scripts. So it flows really well. I wish there was some indication when you're jumping from scene to scene, because a lot of times when comic writers will write, they'll put the scene changes on the next page turn, or you also see in a lot of Alan Moore's work, he does transitions brilliantly. You could look at his work in The Killing Joke or V for Vendetta, or even The Watchmen. He'll bleed some panels together that lets you know that the scene has transitioned. So there's a little break here because since we don't have any ads in this comic, they actually have a one-page gallery, which is really, really cool. You don't see that at all in mainstream comics, but since Billy was putting out this comic, maybe he had some friends do art for him with this another cover and this really cool colors here with that classic she pose. And then back right into the story where she is actually following the antagonist, one of his men, and she talks about how when you're dealing with a big criminal like this, you take out his underlings first, because then once there's no more henchmen, then he's alone, and it is easy to kill a man that stands alone. So she follows him to his apartment, and now she is confronting the henchmen at his apartment. He has a gun, but he opts not to use it. The samurai battle with honor, and so he puts the gun down and pulls out his katana. And again, super cool flashbacks. I love the contrast of these old-timey battlefields from feudal Japan, and the contrast with the city in the background, just taking you right back into the present day with this fight. And Billy does some beautiful action shots here with just the curvature of She's body and the different poses he puts her in. Just like this, when she's dodging that sword, and she talks about the fight. It's kind of like, it's not what she's thinking in that moment. It's as if she is watching along with you and kind of doing like play-by-plays and what was going through her head in that moment. She talks about letting him think he had the upper hand, striking back, and look at this. This is like double kick is awesome. It's like something out of Mortal Kombat, a fighting game. Beautiful. And this last silhouetted figure drawing right here has so much motion in it. The silhouette is so powerful. A lot of cartoonists talk about using the silhouette well, and this is one of those times. She seems to have the upper hand here, and this is the best part of the book in my eyes. She talks about this war tactic. It really shows deep down she is a warrior to the core, because the tactic she's talking about, using that perfect strike at the last second when your opponent thinks he has the upper hand and is about to strike, you use that hesitation and that timing to strike yourself. And it leads to my favorite panel throughout the series so far. A man dead in his tracks, to the point where she cut straight through his tie and it's falling. When I turned the page and I saw this panel, I was breathless. Her pose is so freaking awesome, man. And the fight's over. And you can even see in this panel here, just guts. You can see through his fatty tissue and guts in there. Man, it is brutal. But it's so, the colors are so beautiful and the drawing is amazing. We can also see another tactic from Billy that we referenced in the first issue, where he cuts the gutters and leads the reader to which panel he wants you to read next. Instead of going over to this big panel and reading to your right, you can see at the bottom he wants you to go down and then lead into that big panel. And this is another really cool reveal, which is, it's kind of a reveal, but it kind of hides it until later. She talks about ending him with a swift death, acting fast, because that's the honorable thing. And you hear that shink noise, and it's a flashback to a warrior that has beheaded his enemy. The next page, it's a great transition right to the top of that building again, the next day where the cops are. The cops are at that crime scene, and they don't know what to make of it. They think it's the same person that killed those gang members because the striations of the blades are similar patterns. And we have this great beat here when they're like, there's some kind of symbol was left here. What's it mean? It means death. And the guy's like, it says death? No, it doesn't say death exactly. It says, you turn the page, she. And this is, I think, the first time the readers know what she means, and she in Japanese means death. And that badass blood symbol on there, this is how you end a comic right here. Just with that, he's beheaded, and it shows everything. And this is exactly, I mean, the tie is even down here. Look at that, the tie. That's so cool. This is exactly why Billy didn't need any Comic Code authority when he was putting this book out. And we have this reflection right back from to the front of the page, to the front of this issue, I should say, with the same kind of narration. So the book starts off with this, sleep is a dark river in which we bathe our souls nightly. That is the first words of this issue, and he bookends it perfectly with her actually getting seemingly a good night's sleep. So if you guys liked this issue, let me know what you thought in the comments below. I really dug it. I'm going to be doing more of these reviews for, issue through the whole series, hopefully, if I can get my hands on all of them. There's 12 issues. So like and subscribe if you guys aren't already, and share this video around. Billy is very active on Twitter. You could at him at Billy Tucci on Twitter and tell him to check out this video. I'd really appreciate it. And yeah, hit that notification button so you know when my next She video is going on the internet, and I will catch you later.